I was just watching How to Change Your Mind, a documentary series on Netflix about psychedelic drugs. Now, I mean, they are drugs. It's a bit. Some people question that label, but there's really a big distinction. Like, I say this a lot because I've dabbled very heavily, and there are warnings and there are dangers with psychedelic drugs. Um, but say like my family would often say like is like because I dabble in altering consciousness with substances, whether or not you want to call them drugs or not, they would refer to people they knew in the past who had also dabbled in drugs, and they'd put us in the same category. So, like for example, you can have somebody who has a super clean diet, has meditation practices, breath work, grounding practices, is really good on holistic health, good mental health, and educated, and they have stability, and they use the substances in ceremonial. They use natural, non-toxic substances in ceremonial settings to like explore different like planes of consciousness and gain insights, potentially, or just like explore the nature of reality. There's that, and then there's people who just take mysterious pills on a whim at a party, uh, and they like many of my family and people around me, like they consistently ignorantly like just put me, or not necessarily even just me, but you have the holistic healthy person who uses non-toxic substances, and then you have the crackhead who smokes fucking meth and does pills and stuff, and that they just like, oh, he done drugs and you're doing drugs, therefore that drugs fucked his head up, like what people say. Oh, yeah, well, I know this one guy who was doing drugs and he ended up stabbing someone, and this other guy done drugs and he ended up killing himself, and um but it's not, you can't just simply put, like, drugs is such a massive notion, a massive category. To put them all in this under the same label is like, you got to understand how limiting and what like a frame language is that like limits the way you think. Like, I know Alan Watts, he says like supposedly Chinese can say like what we say in English twice as quick, because just like we don't. And Terence McKenna speaks a lot on like evolving language. But that's not mainly what I wanted to talk about, but it is a valid point. But yeah, I was just watching How to Change Your Mind on Netflix. I super recommend you watch this documentary series. It's by Michael Pollan, and he's been on Joe Rogan and that, and he's very old. He's like 70 odd at least. And he's a scientist. I don't know his full nature, but he on the documentary series he goes into psilocybin or magic mushrooms, mescaline or peyote. Uh, Please ignore my dog snoring in the background. Sorry. Um, MDMA, which is like there's like the true psychedelics, which is like DMT, psilocybin, peyote, and like the more natural, like somewhat plants. But then there's like, because MDMA is like more synthetic, and then LSD I think is semi synthetic, where it's like it's been synthesized, but its origin is from ergot, which is a fungus from wheat. Uh, but yeah, on the documentary series, I was watching the peyote, which is the final episode, or mescaline, and there's an organization called decriminalizenature.org, I believe, and this is what I want to talk about now. And I heard on a Terence McKenna lecture months ago, he said we should simply bring about a law called the Vegetable Drug Act that simply states no plant is illegal. Now, I I've already known this for a long time. And much more recently, I've taken much more of a grounded approach towards psychedelics and just life in general. So just keep that in mind, and so I'm not like ideological about it anymore. I'm really trying to come at this like much more responsibly and with a mature manner. But like, say this lady on this documentary, um she suffered with depression and panic attacks like very consistently for a very long time. She was in mid 30s. It looks she's had two children, and she got like that post mortem depression or something, but it like manifested and just like took over her life. And it was through microdosing psilocybin magic mushrooms that she was able to keep her head above the water and change her life. And I think I'm gonna look into microdosing mushrooms potentially. That I think that could be a good step, maybe, because I've only, in my experience, I just take like massive doses, and just have like outlandish, reality shattering experiences. I never heard of a microdose. I see the edge and I might go close. No cap, but I got a couple stems from my friends. We gonna put them in some tea and go see how it ends. Oh. Uh, so it's where it's like you can gain access to SSRIs or antidepressants. The new research, there is a psychedelic renaissance and revolution. This isn't no like dogma of the mass awakening or nothing. I'm saying it's literally, the science is undeniable. If you look at like, not like the psilocybin mushrooms promote neurogenesis, which is actually counteracts what SSRIs induce, and antipsychotics, these synthetic medications by the pharmaceutical industry, actually kill your brain and shrink your brain, and then the psychedelics do the opposite. But they're not even, I can't even say it's the same. It's like, it's no doubt the research has proven that psychedelic medicines, again, they've been used by ancient cultures since the beginning of time. These things are so profound, and I've had countless, mainly magic mushrooms. I've had 80 plus experiences, high doses mostly. That's a bit over the top. I pushed it very, very far and very hard for about a year, and I don't necessarily recommend doing that. Uh, it's quite dodgy territory, but it was like my passion. But it depends who you are and how you approach it. Um, and your mental state. Like, they're definitely not for everyone. But it's where like these people, like, we have access to SSRIs to treat mental health, but this lady who wanted to treat her depression with these natural mushrooms that grow. I live in the UK. They grow everywhere in about October till November, October till like early December maybe. That's about the season. Up in the mountains and that in Wales, they're but I don't know about, but that's the Liberty Cap strain I know grows most commonly, I think, around here. But they're everywhere. Psilocybin is in so many mushrooms, and it's not just psilocybin. It's just so many different psychedelic compounds. And it's very important to me, this decriminalized nature thing, is because like people are demonized. She was saying she works in government, and this was the first time it seems that she was announcing her use of these compounds, and publicly, and she was concerned about losing her job. She also has two children, and she was scared that she's going to have her children taken away, or if they repeat it to the teachers or something, because they are illegal. And like, I'm not saying we need to legalize it where you can just buy them and sell them full blast, even though I don't know. But like, even like, regardless of my views on that, I think like the laws, like, to the point where if I just want to take doses recreationally, minor, just to help myself, because so I don't know if this is necessarily Right, because ancient cultures, if you really do your research, it's these tools are used to connect with literally different planes of reality, and it is full blast that. Like, it changes your fundamental qualia, like sense perception shit, um, and even physical. Like, I've had mucus purges on them a lot, uh, which is very good for health, as we know. Mucus build-up, and that is from like toxic food. Also, I've heard from, I know like Dr. Sebi and that speaks on that, but I'm not a fucking expert, to be honest. But that's what I hear a lot of this. I got to start questioning a lot of what I've been saying a lot more. So like literally from here forward, I'm much more grounded approach. I'm not going to be speaking on a whim facts that I haven't researched to the bottom. I'm going to preface things a lot more. I want to build a better name for myself, so. But this is very important to me. There's actualize.org has, I think, 2 videos on correcting the stigma of psychedelics, which is a very good series. They're very stigmatized. Like I say, that so many cultures, they're at the center of so many cultures. And what I was going to say a minute ago is that they're like, these can reconnect you with something deeper within yourself potentially. And if you're a psychedelic user, then you'll be familiar. What happens with me? I've struggled with depression for as long as I'd been like somewhat mature, in terms of as soon as I'd reached like my early teens and was actually like more of a conscious being. I've struggled with depression, and the psychedelics seem to ground me in like a proper meditative, like central space. And I often find if I get lost in complexity of culture and things that are not so grounded in the authenticity of the body, and it's more of like paperwork and phonetic alphabets and wage slavery and things like a lot of and social media and stimulation, like the psychedelic will put you on your ass and put you in the like and the center, and a lot of these cultures struggle to call them drugs, because I mean they are drugs really. I know Terence McKenna's like, he says he thinks the notion of a drug is a kind of a stupid one, and like everything that you ultimately put in your body alters your consciousness. This is why fasting is used for spiritual practices, and you are what you eat. We've heard this, like cultures obviously who consume these substances are on different planes. But it's more of just, I think we should really reevaluate how we demonize people who want to use these recreationally and they're not hurting anybody. Like, what's the problem with that? Like, I won't name who, but like, I'm pretty sure the police and that were aware, like for example, cannabis. Like if people are just smoking cannabis recreationally in their home, like that is like it's not officially, but it's kind of almost been a lot. The police don't really give too much of a fuck if you're just getting on with it. But like it's because psychedelics have been put, like you got to understand, magic mushrooms especially, and but just most psychedelics, DMT, LSD, magic mushrooms are the main ones. They say no medical benefit. So they're a class A in the UK, which is like the worst. So they've got these natural compounds with no toxicity right next to heroin, crack cocaine, and like you got the psychedelics. These main ones aren't addictive. When I say non-toxicity, like they don't physically take a toll on your body. Like it's basically nearly impossible to overdose. Like you'd literally have to like pursue an overdose in order to have one, and like dedicate, like that would be a fucking challenge. And you can't get addicted. They actually unwire addiction, like at least physical addiction. You can create like a psychological dependency and psychological addiction somewhat, as you can with anything. And of course there are dangers, but there are dangers with everything. I've spoken a lot about the dangers. But it's yeah, it's just like, just don't. It's like people. Like me, for example, like, I mean, I've been taking them, like I say, on my channel, and this is because I found rabbit holes of research about uh using these compounds for like exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and metaphysics. And like, this is a very legit field. I know it sounds kind of like airy fairy and woo woo, but it's because like our Western culture don't really entertain these ideas too much. We're very like surface level and like bottom line. Like, we only pay attention to like the visible surface of things and materialism and rationality. Uh, but then like other cultures are very much more in touch with the metaphysical, uh, and it's just like for me, I know that everything is grounded in your perception. Like, it's all about how you, it's all in your mind. So like, changing the way that you perceive the world through neurogenesis or through these compounds or both is a is so fundamental to people. I know Mr. Traumatic has a lyric: microdosing psilocybin mushrooms, I will never stop it, because it helps improve my vision and turns my eyeballs telescopic. And we're all telepathic. I'm speaking deep, of course. Our human brain is more than capable of reading thoughts. And again, like, and I'm not talking about just general psychedelia, but it's like, if you think these ideas are like on the edge of being woo woo, it's like, and I'm not telling you to do this, but like 5 grams of psilocybin magic mushrooms, especially in silent darkness, you meet infinity. It doesn't matter who you are, you're full blown in a matrix shattering experience of non duality and often what I can only refer to as God, or like, literally, like, you just face complexity. So yeah, I think, what else is there to say? For me, so when I was 16, like, I've been dealing with depression full blast, and then I got my hand on a tab of LSD. I took a tab of LSD in my room, and it was very mystical. Colors were very vibrant. I was having just insightful, rejuvenating feelings. It was a very long time ago, but since, and like, after that day, well, I took another tab about a week later, and like, I was super chronically depressed. Like, I made an album when I was 16 called Toxic, and that was before I took the LSD. I took the LSD, and after the second time I took it, I remember that walk back from that hotel I stayed at that night was mystical. The day after, and the mysticism never fucking really stopped. It was like, it just opened my eyes to beauty, and that was one of the healing things. It's like, I saw so much beauty and vibrance and colors and life, that it just healed me, just the pure perception of beauty. So and that called off my depression. I was telling people for a long time, LSD cured my depression. I know it's not that LSD can cure everyone's depression, but like, look at the research centers are popping up everywhere for mental health research. This shit is like, so I just felt like it was important to speak on it. So yeah, that's it for the most part, I think. So my name is Oxen, OXSN, or Baron Davidson. I'm very interested in psychedelia, spirituality at the centre, and personal development, and just life in general, and the intellectual field and landscape uh, of just life and consciousness. So yeah. So yeah, just, you could just find me by the name OXSN. Right now I'm in my life in general, I'm having very many shifts and different perspectives, and shit's expanding for me quite a bit right now. So there's potential I'm going to make a new channel. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if there's any need, really. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. And go to decriminalizenature.org, I believe it is, and help the cause. This is important to me. Thank you very much.